Everybody. Welcome to the Choose to Think Inspirational Podcast. I'm super pumped and delighted that you are here today and next week. We've got a little two-part series, if you will, or a topic that I divided into two sections, and it's all about using nature, God's creation, to help you interrupt your thoughts, especially those toxic thought loops. If your default mode network in your brain is like if you're on overdrive on ruminating, worries, anxiety, fears, those sorts of things, nature, stepping outside or bringing a little bit of the outside indoors to you is a powerful way to reset your mind and restore your soul. So the two segments are rooted in how God uses nature to restore your soul. Today's episode is about letting nature interrupt your anxious thinking. Recently, I read an article about the neuroscience of being in nature and the positive impact that it has upon your very soul. And, there's nothing mind blowing about that, is there? Because you and I both know that we can step outside, just get a little bit of fresh air, go for a 10-minute walk around the block, go to the park, watch our grandkids running around at the park, being in the sunshine, allowing the sun to just penetrate our skin and just to feel the warmth of that, or maybe watching the sunrise in the morning or the sunset of the evening. It automatically makes us feel better. But we're going to become a little bit more intentional about it. That's what this show is all about today. This episode is about how we can actually use the fact that nature is so good for us, how we can benefit, especially when we're stressed, when we're anxious, when we're frustrated, when we're angry, when we're experiencing the myriad of emotions and feelings that we all experience as Christian women. Now, I'll tell you that I have a friend who's a preschool teacher, kindergarten teacher, and I had found this article that I was talking about neuroscience of being in nature and how helpful that was and the positive impact it has upon us as human beings, God's creatures. She was so thankful for that article because it validated what she already knows is true, but it put it in more scientific terms, and all the hormones and the neurotransmitters and everything that's kicking into gear when we're actually outside or bringing the outside inside. She made the saddest comment ever about that. She said, "Oh, this is a wonderful article," and she reposted it. However, she also said that one of her students did not know what a nest was, a bird's nest. And if that's not the most heartbreaking thought, can you even get your mind around that there would be a kid out there who's never seen a bird's nest, touched a bird's nest, or even knows what a nest really is? I think back on my childhood, and I would rather skip a meal than have to come inside when I was playing outside. I lived to go play outside. I mean, that's all I wanted to do from the minute I got up, especially during summer breaks, right? Until the very minute, that last little moment, right before you have to come in, I would just want to be outside. We were running around, we were riding bikes, we were playing sports, we were doing hopscotch, we did jacks, we did chess, everything we did, we played outside. We didn't actually play any of those board games inside. We did them all outside. We made our own little theater group. We built forts. We played in the creek. We swam in the creek. It was just such a wonderful childhood in that way, because the benefit that I had and the love that I had for nature never actually left me. In fact, sometimes it's sunny outside right now and I'm sitting in here and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get outside. I got to get outside, get that outdoor fix. Little did I know growing up, I know until kind of recently, that there's no wonder that I crave that I long for that I want that, because it's so healthy. It's so good for me. And I want to read to you just a little bit about the wonderful benefits, according to this article, that being outside has upon you. Hearing birds sing improves your focus. Seeing the color green slows your heart rate. It signals safety and abundance to the amygdala. Now, the amygdala is the part of your brain that is the threat system, right? try to be in the prefrontal cortex as much as you can. The scent of trees decreases anxiety. Touching soil increases serotonin. Bare feet on grass reduces inflammation. Watching the sunrise, the sunset, that balances your hormones. And the article goes on to say that your brain is literally starving for the wild. You know, these cool mornings that we're having in Kentucky, Jim and I get up fairly early. And the first thing I do is I open my office window, I open the window in the utility room, and then I open the screen door so that all that fresh air and the birds' songs chirping like crazy. It's just like a little piece of heaven, I think, on earth. I just love it. But I love the thought of nature therapy, supporting mental and physical well-being. And that really is the topic of the show today. So most of your anxiety is not coming from your circumstances. Do you believe that? You would probably say, wait a minute, of course my anxiety is as a result of my circumstances. That's not exactly true. It's coming from your interpretation of them. And nature, being outside, God's creation, that can actually serve as a powerful interruption to how you are interpreting your scenarios and your situations. If you've ever gotten stuck in some of these kind of common and otherwise toxic thought loops, like maybe you're ruminating, maybe you're just rolling something over from overthinking. Do you overthink? I do. And, you know, my brain is constantly wanting to solve the pieces of the puzzle. I have a problem. My brain doesn't stop trying to solve it. It's the most bizarre. I go to bed at night, go to sleep, and all night long, it's like my brain is thinking about that problem. First thing I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking about, okay, how can I solve that? What can we do? And I'm also praying my way through it. So it's not just giving way to worry, but oftentimes that's kind of overthinking, overanalyzing, ruminating, problem solving. All of that can be somewhat of a toxic loop for me. I got to interrupt that. I got to get out of it. Maybe you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh gosh, I'm already behind. I feel behind. Or I'm feeling at this, you know, I can't figure this particular thing out. I'm just kind of feeling. I'm trying to go live on YouTube. And because this summer, a few Wednesdays, calling them Rewire Wednesdays, Rewire Your Brain. And during those lives, I'm going to have guests on the show. I'm going to ask them all the same questions. We're going to talk real life, real Christians, how they're managing their life. You're going to love those episodes. So they're going to go live on Wednesdays, 7 o'clock p.m. EST, just a few of them over the summer. But the whole time I'm trying to figure out this new setup for live streaming on YouTube, I'm just like, oh, I can't do that. I just can't do this. It's not worth it. Why am I even trying? You see, those are toxic loops that we really get into. And maybe y'all think nobody's going to like them, something's going to go wrong. Well, all those thoughts do, those toxic loops, all they do is trigger my brain's alarm system. That means it goes right to the amygdala, and suddenly my brain starts believing there's some kind of threat, when really it's only my own thoughts that are causing the threat. It's not the circumstance, it's what I'm thinking about them. So what can we actually do about that? Romans 12:2 says, to be transformed through the renewing of your mind. And that's what we're attempting to do. That's one of the theme verses on the podcast. Isaiah 26:3 says, Lord, you keep in perfect peace those whose mind is stayed on you. And so my question for you is your mind stayed on Christ? Is it stayed on God? Are you fixing your mind on things above? Well, too often I don't do that, but I am training my mind to do that. And sometimes when I'm stuck, when I'm frustrated, when I can't kind of see clearly, maybe I'm experiencing a little bit of brain fog, maybe I'm exhausted and fatigued, whatever the scenario is, peace is not random. It's tied to what our minds are fixed on. And so in your brain, you've got those toxic thought loops going, those emotional loops, just you're running in a hamster wheel almost. And remember that those kinds of thoughts are going to trigger cortisol in your brain. That's the stress hormone. And you have to remember also that your brain does not distinguish well between a real danger and an imagined threat. And those are the thought loops. The threats are the thought loops. So the goal for us is to interrupt those. This is 7 R's for living your best thought life. I've taught this method that I've used since I came through depression about 10 years ago. I've taught this method over and over and over again. You hear it all the time on the podcast. And we're basically on the resist part of that, the interruption of those thought loops, of those toxic thoughts that we're having. We're trying to stop the floodgate that gives way to all the overthinking and all the overwhelm. And we're saying, okay, what's another way that we can stop? What can we do? That's where nature comes in, because those repetitive thoughts that you have become actually automatic emotional responses. So your thoughts impact your emotions impact your attitude, your mindsets, and your moods, and consequently impact your behavior. So when I'm sitting at a desk over here and I'm like, oh dear, I can't do this thing. I can't learn this. I'm trying to tell myself those kinds of thoughts. I've got to then do something to switch that. I've got to, instead of repetitively saying that, because my emotions are involved, then I'm like feeling a lot less sad, going, oh, I'm qualified, and all that kind of junk. My emotions kind of plummet at that point, and I'm feeling discouraged. That then impacts my decisions, my behavior, and I can say, well, forget it. I'm not even going to do it. Can you think of a scenario in your life when you've done that, when you really wanted to do something and you thought, I'm going to try this new thing, but it was hard for you, and then you get frustrated, and then you just kind of spiral backwards, and you're like, oh, I can't do it, like such a quit kind of thing. What we're trying to do is, when you're feeling those ways, when you're thinking those thoughts, when you're engaged in those kind of loops in your brain, and the amygdala is firing all the alarms, there's really no threat, mind you, but your brain can't quite determine that there's not really a threat. And so your amygdala is blaring, what can you do? And that's where nature comes in. And that's the critical pivot. I thought we would just have fun with that, with connecting nature to your thought life. And how can we use nature, God's creation, to help us pivot out of really hard spots that we're in? Because nature helps to interrupt that loop. Why does it do that? Because it actually reduces rumination or overthinking. It shifts your attention from that task at hand, or that frustration that you have, or that worry, or that fear, or whatever's consuming you at the moment. And it's very introspective, right? And it causes you to shift your attention outward. Okay, that's a good thing. There was this 20-minute nature prescription. Can you imagine if you went to the doctor and he's like writing you a prescription, which you haven't been feeling the greatest, and on the little prescription form it says, get outside for 20 minutes every day. I'm here to say that that's a doggone good prescription for you to do. That is something that you and I both need to do every single day without fail, because it is so, so good for us. We're craving it. We're missing it in this modern day life. We're not even letting our kids get muddy hands. They're not knowing, what it is to just like lose themselves outside, just doing things outside. So much fresh air, so much sunshine, so much water outside. It's so good for them, and we want to regain that. So all I have to do is take a nature pill. When we're feeling anxious, fearful, restless, when we're feeling bored, take the nature pill. And by that, I mean, get outside for at least 20 minutes. That's going to lower the stress hormones that you're feeling, like cortisol. When your stress lowers, your thoughts become clearer. Because if your stress level is really high and that cortisol is just running rampant in your system, how clearly do you think you're thinking? Not very well. You've lost the edge of clear thinking because your brain is in the amygdala, not in the prefrontal cortex. So the trick is to get your brain, your thought, everything shifted to the prefrontal cortex, where you can really think through things and have clarity of thought. And when your thoughts become clearer, that's when transformation, be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that's when that takes place. And it only takes 20 or 30 minutes outdoors. It's going to reduce your cortisol significantly. And it doesn't matter where you are. It can be in your own yard, in the park, just walking around your neighborhood, it's God's 20-minute design for a reset for you. And I love that I've been able to connect that, just being outside, all those other health benefits that it has to our thought life, because that's what the show is about, right? Choosing to think. And in this case, we're choosing to think about our physical health and our emotional health, and really our spiritual health. Because when we're outside, we can also praise God for everything that He's given us outside. This isn't just a walk around the block. This is a thought interruption strategy. When you're on one of those toxic loops, you want to interrupt it, and getting outside will do the trick. John Calvin said that creation is the theater of God's story. And that's what you're going to feel when you go outside. The heavens declare the glory of God. That's Psalm 19:1. Have you ever just had your breath taken away by the awe of God's creation? I can just look at the clouds sometimes. You know, my dad always used to say, blue sky, with those little puffy clouds that look like they were kind of suspended there. You love those puffy clouds. It was just so cool for him to see those. Or maybe for you, it's the trees swaying in the breeze, or feeling the warmth of the sun, as I was giving that picture earlier of how pleasant it is to be outside. You're literally shifting your eyes away from your text that you're involved in this texting back and forth. You're taking a break from it. And you all of that stress, and all of what is done outside. I've given us nature for a reason. He even tells us what things to think about. Creation redirects your thought from that self-focus to God focus. Fear, you're just in awe of what you see out there. I go into my front bed and have some flowers and different bushes, and I look at those little things, even the little rose bush that's trying to produce all the leaves and then the buds, and it's going to flower. And I just look at that and I'm filled with awe at how beautiful that is going to be, and how amazing it is that I can delight a rose bush, or I can delight in the daisy coming up, daisy, or I have lemon balm in my backyard in this one area, and it's huge. I have some chocolate mint that I'm going to use for teas and different things. It's so good, and so I can be proud of those things, those wonderful little gifts, blessing of God's that He gives us. So while you're outside, if you make the decision to say, okay, I can't do this tomorrow, and I'm going to go outside, I'm going to take that break. When you go outside, I'm going to challenge you to do two things. One thing I want you to do is called the name replace method. While you're outside, I want you to notice about the tree. I'm just so overwhelmed right now. I'm just sorry. Just name it. Because when you name how you're feeling, you can go, your brain has to go from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex, the function of naming and what you're doing. So it's like you're thinking about what you're thinking about, and you're associating a name to it. That automatically distills, gives you a little bit of clarity of thought. You can name it by saying, hey, this is a fear-based thought, not based on truth. And you can replace it with scripture, like, Lord is my shepherd in my life. Just the simplest little scripture during those moments that you can help you get that shift. So that's one thing. You simply know how you're feeling. What, okay, Lord, you might even pray as you're going through. I came outside just to have a shift in perspective. I'm tired of being introspective. I want to I want my cast my mind on you and your mistake about these things. That's instantly just name it and you replace it. Now, the second one I can challenge you with is called the creation cue practice. So you can do your own flimsy kind of associations if you want. Like if you see trees when you're out rooted, and then you think, oh, I'm rooted in love. My heart is rooted in this. And isn't that just something in a thing to think about? see the sky, you can think, you know what? You're so big. You are bigger than all the problems and the weight of life that I'm feeling right now. You know, I have a couple of scenarios going on in my life. I have an issue with a student where I teach online Spanish, and it's so troubling to me. So troubling. But in those moments where I say, wait a minute, I don't want to be fear based. I'm afraid. I name it. And then I'm like, okay, wait, God is bigger. God is in control. He's got this. So if you see something like the sky or the ocean, you can remind yourself that God, He is bigger than whatever you may be facing, and He's going to handle it. He's going to take care of it. What might you think of when you see water, a stream, a pond, a lake? Maybe, someone has a fountain in your neighborhood. There's one of the people who live in the neighborhood, they have this nice, they care, yes, but how could you use that as, remember, we're trying to get a creation view. So if you see water, you might think He restores. He is the living water. Do you see how you can use the nature to kind of also be another way to calm yourself down, because you're building new neuro associations when you do that. So I just want to remind you that your environment can't change your life, but it can help you to change your thoughts. And your thought will change everything in your life. And listen, if you want the 7 hours for living your best thought life, you can get those. Just tap the link in the show notes. It's one of my ministry favorite downloads. It's all yours free. I hope that will help you. It's just a one-page infographic to tell you the method of doing that to help you choose to think. And as you go into this week ahead, I want to challenge you to pay attention, not just to how you feel, but to what you are thinking when those feelings arise. Step outside, even briefly, and let creation, let God, let the Spirit help you reset what is happening internally. The next week, in the second segment, all about nature, we're going to go even deeper, and we're going to explore how God uses creation not only to calm your mind, but to restore your soul. We're going to talk about how Jesus consistently withdrew into nature, how environments shape identity and inner narratives, and how you can begin also to bring the outdoors into your home in simple, practical ways that continue renewing your thought life throughout the day. You're not going to want to miss it. So God bless you, and thank you so much for tuning in today. I'll catch you next week on the Choose to Think Inspirational podcast. Ciao.